but the systems are more complex. So systems are so difficult to map or even design.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into Nodes of Design. To help support our mission spread knowledge, we have a very special guest on today's episode. Let's welcome Noor, who is a founder and principal designer at Eider Design and Innovation. Noor is a design leader in human-centered services and systems. With a deep passion for shaping new technologies and delivering value for humanity, Noor helps organizations achieve sustainable transformation and leverage new technologies for better use. Over the last decade, Noor has set up award-winning innovation teams at FJOD, Accenture, and Wangdoody of Infosys, and leading global innovation capabilities for larger organizations. She is currently authoring a book, System Design Practice, and teaching the topic at multiple universities in Europe. In this episode, Noor had shared great insights on system design and where does this design methodology fits in and how to build system design map. We also spoke on what are the frameworks to follow for system design to design innovative and sustainable product with some wonderful examples by Noor. We then spoke on how could designers utilize the power of system design to bring ideas to life which are practical and scalable. We then spoke on how to tackle and predict problems when designing for large-scale systems and concluded the show by Noor's take on ethics and collaboration culture in design. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and on every Friday we release new episodes with different creative leaders from around the world to help you better understand different concepts related to design. So don't forget to tune in into Notes of Design every Friday. With that being said, happy designing everyone. Hi Noor, welcome to Nodes of Design. It's a pleasure hosting you today on our show.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So Noor, how was your day?
It's been really good. Had a very good, interesting kind of strategic conversation with different clients. And these days I'm quite busy writing a book. So it's been a very productive day, I would say, as a Friday. So looking forward to the weekend.
That's wonderful, Noor. So if you could give a brief about yourself to our audience out there.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I am Noor, and I've been working in experience industry, a creative industry, but then hopping on, from experience design, service design, strategic design, data design, and now for the last 3.5 or 4 years, more focusing on innovation and system design. I would say I've been very active in leading and working and setting up design capabilities. I live in London. And at the moment, I'm writing a book and as well as working with clients directly. There are some, interesting work. I'm really happy. I try to be consistent with my yoga despite of COVID. Yeah, so really having a good time in the summer.
Thank you so much, Noor. So what was your journey into design? How did you start? And what are your tips to the beginners on how to start?
My journey to design. I knew what I wanted to do as a starting, someone who's wanted to go to uni, and always you get this question, right, in high school, what are you going to study? And I wanted to design systems, but that what I wanted to do actually didn't exist at that time. So when I looked at, for example, there's a ticketing system, like I know we have Oyster card in London, but I grew up in Turkey and we had something very similar, but it was metal. So this metal was when you touch on the bus, it was actually beep. But basically today's Oyster card, when I was a child, we could use this. And I was so curious about how things work, and how the services are so cool. So I didn't have to carry, a change every time I need to get on a bus. But I didn't know where to start. So what do I need to actually study? And I found myself trying to, if you want to design systems, and now everything is all around digital and making, creating like smart systems that actually make things easy for people. With this passion, I went into computer science, which is, slightly different than art. However, it is actually became like my foundation because we shape technologies. So while I was in computer science, I noticed definitely programming for service was not something I wanted to do. So I really enjoyed my course, but I changed all of my optional modules with HCI. And this is the unit. Actually, I had a professor from HCI. He was so good. Neil Maiden. He actually really changed my mind about the systems and and why design is important and why user research is important. And I had this module in my course called requirements engineering, which is basically UX research now. It sounds really, really old school. Back in those days, we were always referring to HCI, requirements engineering and Bolero templates. So basically, I ended up specializing more and more in human-computer interaction design. And I topped it up with more leadership kind of studies later. But I found myself doing what I exactly wanted to do, and even including earlier in products, and then moving into service, and then moving into complex systems and innovations. I think I really I'm doing what I'm doing. I really wanted to do, but I couldn't name them before because the names just didn't exist. So I think the tips for people, it's so hard to I want to be this, or I want to be that. That's a very how can I say, material vision. But when the vision is, I want to make this change, I want to design this, I want to create that thing for people or for someone to help, for environment, I think these are much more stronger, and it really connects to the core. So that's the feeling I have. This is the reason my titles are massively changed since I started. And those titles didn't exist when I was studying HCI. But fundamentally, what I'm doing is the exactly same thing I really wanted to do. So we now have opportunity in design and creative industry to make the impact, shaping technologies, and hopefully respecting human behavior and create less damage to the world.
Thank you so much, Noor. So let's begin today's episode with system design. So what is system design, and where does this design methodology fits in, and how to build system design maps?
Oh, gosh. So it's $1 million question. So to be honest, I am writing a book, and it takes me, months to describe what it is and how can people use this and where it fits in and how to create system map. My book is about basically the entire system design framework and how to apply that. I've been writing this book almost a year now, and we are almost finishing soon. So let me explain this. What is system design, first? So user experience, I think the fundamental idea behind user experience is really great, right? Creating, using, shaping technologies and improve experience of people, do things that is easier, and to do things that is more manageable, and then they have more transparency and they have more time. It's like online banking just saved lots of time for us. Like, we don't go to banks and queue up and just to make some payments there anymore. So there's amazingly great benefit of user experience, but unfortunately misuse this, as we misuse lots of things in the world. So the user experience became the customer experience, and not taking care of users who's part of that systems and services. And we purely focusing on customers and driving business and focusing on sales, that really shifted. And we started really thinking through, do we really care about users? How do we actually, so if we really look at user as anyone who's directly or indirectly interact with a system, and then parameters are much more complex than trying to improve an end customer journey. So there is different angles to this, right? So, I'm not saying this is the only way. You can take end customer journey, and that could be the thread that you can pull in step by step. And this is how we move into service design. But the systems are more complex. So systems are so difficult to map or even design for the benefit of very single prioritized segment group. The reason for that is, let me give you one example. The garments we are dressing today, right? We dress them, and there's so many, there's a high street brand maybe we buy it from, but there's multiple companies behind the supply chain, and where if this says cotton on the label, is this really cotton? So people are started questioning, and I'm so inspired and super hopeful and happy about the new generation questioning things. So how things are made. And if you think about this just simple garment example, there are people on the other side of the world that because of this garment coming here and because of it arrived to my wardrobe for X price and next day deliveries or whatever, it is causing some problems on the other side. And it's like not only just other side or even like the end of life cycles and etc. So there's lots of complexity and problems in this. One single T-shirt uses almost like 2 tons of water to wash before it actually goes to sales. And that water is there are technologies to reuse water, but it's not possible or it's not that advanced in every country or in every part of the world. And then we see textile is one of the most toxicated industry. It's even more toxicated than petrol industry. It's a surprising factor. And then the landfills are so big in textile. So if you think about this now, who would you consider as a user in this scenario? For me, the users are also people who live in those villages and those rivers are ruined, or people affected by this. Our planet, so everyone then indirectly becomes the user. So I found, I question myself always, like back in my, ambition, like when I was very, very young, I want to make an impact. I want to build systems and services that really helps people. Never meant, we can damage and create all these dark sides. But guess what? Every technology comes with some downsides, right? We love internet, but you can just waste your time on internet. Social media is great, but that can be very, very negative side of it. So I think similar to that, every inventions comes with some negative side. So what system design does? Hey, there are bigger picture. There are bigger parameters to consider. And how can we really put all of these users in the heart of those systems and bring the expert? I'm no longer the expert in the room now. I am the facilitator as designer and creative person, but I want this expertise, this environmental, this person and that person coming here and to really discuss what's the best way to do this. So that's what system design brings together. So it uses lots of design thinking methodologies, and it uses a bit more systems thinking methodologies, but actually it introduces new ways of working and bringing more expert in the core product teams that actually trying to solve problems that's much more harder for a single person or sometimes single company to solve. High street brand may not feel responsible for the rivers getting unhealthy to its nature. But you know what? The end users will blame them because that's the garment is attached to. There's lots of problems that we can deal, but hopefully system design, it can help us to create better policies, find a better middle ground, but really put our planet and people at the heart. Because we can map systems. It's like very similar to actually the thinking of it is very similar to service design. You just need more experts to map out systems. So in my book, I actually have system mapping guide to help designers to step-by-step process of how research, how different expert insights and different perspective actually can be translated into a system map. System maps is basically a visual representation of the problem. So not everything in the system, because that can become like probably unreadable gigamaps. So system map is really about what is the visual description of the problem and what are different peoples and different stories in that problem and what are the different businesses, department units, as well as technology and data involved in that problem, if that's the focus. So really pulling together lots of insight into a shape where everyone can understand. So system maps are very, very effective for technical people to understand, business people to understand, even someone completely from outside to understand what we are talking about. So it's a diagram, highly visual, can go as creative as possible. I've seen some people create in 3D type of system maps. It depends on what's the need, often we just create the map to get the alignment. If that serves the purpose, and you just move into, what are the systems concept you're going to create out of those maps. But the maps represents the system, the people problems, data challenges, and all sorts of challenges that relevant to what you are investigating.
Thank you so much, Noor. So you had mentioned innovation and sustainability in previous example. So what frameworks to follow for system design to design these innovative and sustainable products?
So this is often, we have been talking about it even like 3-4 years ago. When we look at problems, we need to design products that actually works for organizations, right? And if you pick up any large organization, most often say like today, my clients, in their top 5 strategy, there's always, a space for ESGs and sustainabilities and corporate, responsibilities. But there is also, I think this is also becoming more multiple forces actually, creating this demand for organizations. So number one, especially in Europe, there are actually set target dates for carbon footprint and for, ESG goals. And there are 16 different goals that actually United Nations published. So there are sustainability goals. These are that organization needs to meet at some point. When you design a product, forget about sustainability, but if that product is so separated from the organization's vision and strategy, it will have very short lifespan, right? And if the organizations today setting that sustainability is our target, but also it's important to dive deeper, what does it mean for them? But if you think about, there's already like policies and government push come into, in space where organizations need to meet these criteria in 10 years or sometimes less than that. And then at the same time, there's a new generation that actually asking for, how do you make your business? What's the things behind this? So the behind the screen is becoming a big question. And there's another force, which is processes. Today's business operations are quite costly compared to probably the profit they used to make from these operations. Consider a telco, right? What is their profit margin today compared to probably 30 years ago? So cost cutting is a big drive also at the same time. But the cost cutting can also introduce more sustainable processes in place. And then there's another force, which is we have now technology that can do many things in scale that human cannot do. However, we do need human to manage these technologies. So all these nicely brings, we do have sustainability targets, and the products and innovation we are doing today, it needs to serve for that purpose. So why don't we bring sustainability requirements into the projects by default? We don't need to go off, like the way we, for example, bring user requirements, and then we got business requirements, and then we got market requirements. Why don't we bring sustainability requirements into our project and have KPIs attached to it? Because what we define and put as to measure, and that things gets done, at least to, even if you don't, for example, create anything sustainable at first, that can still bring lots of awareness and how this product in long term, serves the purpose and serves the, strategic goals that businesses and organizations are targeting. So the framework, I think I already mentioned, but brings that we need to bring, these sustainability requirements into projects, and that what system design framework introduces as well. There is we call this system research that, pull together all these insights into digestible, actionable way into projects as requirements.
Thank you, Noor. So how could designers utilize the power of system design to bring ideas to life that are practical and scalable? Also, could you please explain us how to run or conduct these design workshops?
Okay, so for the first question, how can designers use this system design framework in their day-to-day projects? Okay, so I will give you this, I will give this as an example. So say like you are working on a UX project. Every time you question the service or how the customers having what type of experience in different channels, inside branches, when they call customer service, kind of you are leaning towards more service design. Is that right? It is kind of like not necessarily you shaping all of them, but you're kind of informing them, hey, here are the 5 principles we define about user experience. And this is not only for the platform we are designing, but also should be all the touch points in the service. So very similar to this, when you design, a problem, when you work on a problem, you can create a 360 view of that problem. I think one of the easiest and practical way to use system design framework is to work around the problems. So the problems that, what are the links, are interconnected problems with this, and who are affected by these problems? And or you already start digging into a kind of wider understanding of that problem. And that becomes not just one customer problem, but and then you see the reflection of that issue inside the organization, and therefore maybe different employees, and therefore maybe different departments, or from data angle and from technology angle. So once you create that 360 view or 360 understanding, doesn't matter whichever creative format you come up with, that you are already tapping into systems thinking and system design. You can take a simple coffee example, right? So you can dive deeper, not just how the coffee is come to your, home, but also, consider fair trade, consider the economies of the coffee supply chain, consider, how the future of sustainable coffee trade. So you can, as you dig deeper into all of this, you may not solve all of them. So this is one big sometimes misunderstanding with system design. You're not digging into all the problems to bring awareness, to inform what are the problems you're working on. But often these interconnected problems help you to understand that problem really well, and sometimes shift you from that problem because you may identify something bigger. But at the same time, it gives you like a 360 view. But that doesn't mean you're going to solve all of those problems, because it's probably much, wider, bigger. There's like climate, effects on environment, for example, and that affects how the coffee is produced today. So, there are some bigger problems, but bringing awareness, it will just help organizations and even governments to have a plan, or to keep those in mind when they do something else. With the system design workshops, depends on where you are in the process, right? So I explain in my book that we work with the problems, and there is an entire phase to dig in deeper in the problems and understand the type of problems. Within that, we have a framing workshop, and that framing workshop is it's rather condensed experts, so it's not much wider. However, as you move into the process, so you do detailed research, there is actually a phase where you bring together a drafted as is system map. This is really fundamental to have a successful system design project. So once you create that 360 view and bring all the experts into the room, then the magic happens. So the plan usually for this, to enter this system design workshop, you've got a reframe problem, and you've done a detailed systems research. So that will include user research, system research, business markets, etc., commercial, and you've got all your trends and forecasting in place. All that input translated into, visually easy to understand system map. Now you have different problems highlighted in the map. And now you invite all the experts that you need based on the problem you are looking at. And here is in the first day, we take everyone through the problems and all the insights. We don't tend to create like a pages of documentation, so we expect insights to be visually representative on the map. That's often the case, and pain points and root causes of the problems that you looked at. And in the first day was really about mostly understanding, where you are at, what the team found. And then the good thing is some of these experts, probably the people who work with you to build that. So you got lots of buy-in. So it's no longer just design trying to adjust like we've done a good work, but actually it becomes like, the organizational work. So therefore there's a bigger buy-in. And the second day, we often start ideating about what are the potential directions and opportunities looking at different problems and prioritizing those problems first. But usually that prioritization, you learn it from day one. You can run this as an activity. And then the second activity, you're going to run, maybe working as a group, peering up, a good, matching expert to look at certain parts of your system map. And then the next day or the next session, you can then see how many concepts that people are coming up with, how many ideas. As soon as ideas or concepts are generated, we hand over a nice new business model canvas, which is a very useful exercise to kind of validate how this idea can come to their life. And then we usually have technology experts in the group, in the team, to pre-validate that everything that people coming up with. At the end of these workshops, we all have, some cool concept ideas. Some of them are written formats because you don't expect lots of, business experts to be very, very visual, which is fine. This is where creative people will help. And then business models attached to it, commercial models attached to it, data models attached to it. And then basically you leave the workshop with number of concepts created. And then even sometimes prioritizing those concepts. And this is where system design workshops are very, very helpful. And sometimes we leave system design workshop with 4 solid validated workshops. And it's validated, so the experts are already in the room. So therefore the concepts are getting pre-validated. And sometimes even, users could be in the room as well. As an example, we're talking about personalized medication. So in that system design workshop, we have actually people who's completely outside of the project and have some sort of, personalized or interest in personalized medication, interest in the space. And we use them as a kind of potential outsider user who can actually contribute to this. So basically, I'm not saying this is a fully validated, but it's pre-validated at least for us to create more, dive deeper for each concept. So the good thing with system design workshops, it gives you a number of concepts created by experts, and it's all different shape and format, and some of them are actually written, and some of them are actually like Excel sheets or whatever. Core idea here is these ideas are coming from subject matter experts and is facilitated by designers. And often we create multiple projects, or we create a roadmap, which project we tackle first if it's a smaller team.
Thank you so much, Noor, for giving us such great examples. So how to tackle and predict problems when designing for such large systems?
So we cannot predict problems, right? So I think this is a really good question, though. So I'm gonna answer it with lenses. Let's talk about lenses, right? So we learned something from design thinking that we dive so deep in research. We create an empathy with people. We create empathy maps. We create what that problem means for X type of persona. So that's very detailed lens. So you really dive deeper and then pull the thread from there to see how the entire product is affecting people or can really help people. But here, while you're having that detailed lens, sometimes you need to zoom out to look at much wider and much bigger problems. We don't generate problems. We investigate problems. We are the investigator, and that put this bigger lens and the wider lens, the empathy lens and detailed lens and data lens and technology lens. I think the jig here is in being able to hop on that high level, low level, mid level, and then pull together how if a problem could cause other problems in different parts, in bigger picture, in more details, come back with, a nice, good problem map. So identifying that, I think I always call this out, like, we do research in system design that is probably like 40% design thinking and probably another 30-40% systems thinking, like putting that wider and bigger lens and bring the insight and connect them. And then probably the rest of it is just really facilitating and focusing on the, getting the right direction right. Because when you deal with so many big problems and, you can lose the direction in projects. So keeping the borders, like where you stop, where you stop, because the sky is the limit. You can't go as big as climate change, because then you're going to find all the problems somehow is kind of links to the environment and the climate and the world we live in, the civilization, the cities. But, you still need to come back to your main focus and stop somewhere. So that your project frame problem, it gives you, kind of like a keep checking back. Is this relevant? Is this relevant? And then don't answer yourself and get expert to answer that question as well.
Thank you so much, Noor. So what is your take on future of ethics and collaboration culture in design?
For me, ethics, in my book, for example, I put ethics in every chapter. When we frame problem, when we investigate problem, when we digest the insights into a system map, when we come up with concept, and when we sometimes design AI or using these technologies to create the concepts, ethics, it's different at all levels, at each phase. So imagine you design an amazing automation. Now your ethical concern will be, how this is going to work, how this is going to employ people who's working closely with this mechanism now. What is the human-machine interaction will be at that point? But when you look at maybe during research, when you investigate in systems, do you actually reach out to all the people who's directly and indirectly affected by this? Or do you just ignore, or just focus on what is the business focus here, So I think the ethical requirements is very similar to sustainable requirements. So this is the reason I wanted to talk about ethics in every phase and process that in every phase when you research, when you design, when you analyze, and then when you just scale up solutions. It becomes a different conversation when you talk about AI. It's not a different, it's just so deep, right? So here we are talking about, designing a colleague. So when you design a colleague or when you design an assistant, it's so different. Like, we are not just talking about personal data. We're talking about machine screwing personal psychology. So I recently mentored a program which was about designing an AI teaching assistant. And this teaching assistant, it actually teaches kids and it learns from how they interact with the system, brings up, here are the things that the kids can improve, say like spelling or like writing or reading or whatever, and even in math. So, and then AI suggests kids to repeat those exercises to improve where they are not very good at. This is idea-wise is amazing, but I would be so worried if a 3 years old or 4 years old sits down with this machine and this machine does basically what a classroom teacher is supposed to do, and then it gamifies it because the kids now enjoying it, which is lovely, but it really needs like a deep thinking. So this is the reason the notion of designers doing the design, it's dangerous. So this is the reason why you need experts, why you need psychologists in the room to make certain decision. How this AI going to learn patterns and which patterns is going to learn? Have you designed the journey, a curriculum for AI? So that conversation is just so big and so massive compared to we're talking about users' data, organizations, how they use customers' data, how they play back customers' data. I think that's like there's so many different ways to tackle ethic. And I think it's fundamental to have that consistently in projects, in different stages in projects as well. So that's ethic. Your other question was about collaboration. I think I partially answered this collaboration question. The world where I believe, the creatives bring in amazing magic to lots of, organizations and building solutions, collaboration in creative and collaboration in design, it is call to action, right? So I think most of our industry is aware of the call to action for designers. We are no longer making decisions about design. We need those experts with us, going to that journey with us to make those key decisions about how we are going to shape these technologies for that given problem. We can bring a lot to the table, but we need to use expert insights, the expert knowledge, to make the. So this is the reason the collaboration for businesses is a challenge that all these siloed departments and units now needs to come together. But I think as creative people, we have a really good place to play where we can actually facilitate all those conversations and bring them into the same conversation with the artifacts we create out of this conversation, and then the direction that we can lead. So I think it's very important, maybe even more important for us. It changes probably day to day what we would be doing in system design specifically. So maybe a bit more communication and facilitation trainings needed when when we study in design or when we study in service systems and complex design to become a complex system designer. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you so much, Noor, for sharing all these wonderful insights with us. So could you please share with us, how does your typical day look like, or any interesting stories?
My day looks like, the one thing I learned from COVID is I was freaked out that I wasn't going to be able to do my routine physical activity. So I created this dancing yoga thing. So basically a bit of Spotify, bit of yoga, a bit of cardio. So I created like myself this every morning, kind of, I take 35 minutes or so. And I do that. And it's just became part of my life. And I'm really, really enjoying it. And that's something I basically learned from, all this like lockdown and just develop over the time. Became very important for me in the mornings now. And I'm writing a book, like I'm having lots of ups and downs. Sometimes I'm not happy with what I wrote yesterday and I just started over again. And I also work with clients directly. So I do have meetings in between. So it's just, usually now because of I'm writing and I can write also very early in the mornings and in the evenings, depends on my day schedule. I organize my day more. So I'm not on a 9 to 5 meetings, but that was my life basically most of the time just before March. So it was very busy. I'm super happy with what I'm doing and how I'm spending my day. I just work in my book a lot and with my clients.
Thank you so much, Noor, for sharing us all these wonderful insights. So we'll conclude this show by you recommending 3 favorite books of yours, or also people who inspire you the most in this space.
Okay. I love so many books, so it's so hard to shortlist. However, like you got like a different zone of reading at different times. So at the moment, I quite discuss a lot. So I discuss a lot with my partner, the book called Flow. And Flow is very interesting book. So it's sometimes that you think, oh yeah, no brainer. So going into the Zoom. So that's the idea. But I think going into scientific details of flow and actually creating like a lots of tactical ways to get into flow. I think this book by Mihaly, Csikszentmihalyi is the last name, something like that. If you check it out, Flow by Mihaly, it's a very, very good book. I also quite like Cracked It. It's very creative ways of explaining how to solve problems. It's by multiple authors, including Bernard Garrette. I'm so also into lots of systems thinking trainings and books, and I love Donella Meadows' Systems Thinking in Systems book. I mean, that's because maybe my headspace is quite in the in that area. I also love a writing book, which is called Bird by Bird, and this book called talk about shitty first drafts. So I think it's a perfect book for people who are very perfectionist and who just wanted to get things done in a super nice way, versus creating that shitty first draft versus trying to bending all the time to make it perfect. Highly recommend. It's about writing, but actually can apply to everything else that we do. These are my current my on top of my list. Oh, I have so many people inspires me. Michael Jordan, that's number one. Oh my God, right? What a passion! What a passion that you are the best. You're the one of the best, and you continue exercising every day more than everyone else. I think that's really inspirational for me. I inspired a lot by lots of historical philosophers, like Rumi is another one. So for one quote that really got me thinking so much is about Rumi says, if you understand one and one, so understanding one doesn't give you understanding one and one. The key here to understand and, because that one and one, when they become together, that can mean and they can do something that it might be difficult to understand. So I think this is one of my, I found it really, what a wonderful mind that really applies today and applies really like the way we should really looking at the world. So one and one. This is how we also find a kind of way to understand systems, how they come together, how they influences together, what are the interconnections, what does those means to systems and causing problems and effect of those problems. I'm really inspired by lots of philosophers, but I think Rumi specifically. This quote is just really make me so excited. All of a sudden, my partner goes like, "Oh, what's going on?" And I just look at this. I'm almost crying. So I love lots of the industry experts as well in this space. But my earlier inspiration, that why I got into the field. Neil Maiden, my professor and my undergraduate, really inspired me about why you should design, why you should program for people. The context was computer science, but I think lots of things we are doing is changing, but I think that those inspirational moments kind of stays with us.
Thank you so much, Noor, for sharing these wonderful recommendations with us. And we are looking forward to host you again in our upcoming episodes. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was great.